Hi, happy Thursday. So three things I need you to work on today. First one is open your Unit 1 journal and complete Journal 3. So remember, you can go into the Monday folder and just click Edit on that Unit 1 journal to get to it today, or you can open up your Google Drive and search for it in there. Once you're done with Journal 3, you can move on to the next thing. Let's see if that works. Nope. So next thing is this quizzes. So it's on noun, metaphor, and illusion. It should put your name in right away, and then you can just hit start. Make sure you do have your first and last name. This is like a homework link, so I can see when you did it and how you did and all that. So please, first and last name, and then start game. And you're just gonna go through and answer the question. So Harriet Tubman was the Moses of the Underground Railroad. Is that a metaphor? Is it neither, or is it an illusion? So you'll just pick illusion and then keep going through all of the questions. So when you're done with that, please do the whole thing, because I can tell if you close it after you started or something like that. So that's the first thing to review for the test tomorrow on noun, metaphor, and illusion. So when you're done with that, just submit it. And then the next thing is this poem, and we're going to work on identifying imagery, illusions, and inferences. So when you open up and make your copy, so the poem is called Powwow at the End of the World, and it's by Sherman Alexie. So your I can use imagery and an illusion to make inferences about the deeper meaning of a poem. So each word in a poem contributes to its overall meaning and effect. One way poets create meaning is through the use of imagery. Descriptions that appeal to the senses of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Notice the way Sherman Alexie appeals to the senses of sight and touch with this image, which communicates feelings of power and importance. After that, salmon leaps into the night air above the water, throws a lightning bolt at the brush near my feet, and starts a fire. And then illusions. So another way poets communicate meaning is through the use of illusions or references to a famous person, place, event, or work of literature. Alexie creates a connection to the culture of Northwest Native Americans by alluding to characters and places that are important in their history. For example, the powwow at the end of the world contains several references to salmon. Salmon have special significance in the Northwest Coast, to the Northwest Coast peoples, and are a part of many traditional myths and ceremonies. So, making inferences. When you make inferences about a poem, you combine clues from the text with your own knowledge and experience of the world to make educated guesses about meaning. Making inferences is sometimes called reading between the lines, and it can be especially important in poetry, where much can be said about in relatively few words. The diagram below shows one inference that can be made about powwow at the end of the world. So what the poem says, I am told by many of you that I must forgive. What I know, people may choose to forgive someone who has hurt them in some way. What I infer, the speaker believes that he has been hurt by the actions of another. The speaker of the poem is the voice that talks to the reader. Who is the speaker being asked to forgive? Tell what the poem says and what you already know. That helps you make this inference. And that's just something to think about. You don't need to answer that. Here's the poem. So award-winning author and poet Sherman Alexie was born on the Spokane Indian Reservation in the state of Washington. Salmon have long played an important role in the economic and spiritual life of Native Americans in the Washington area. The building of dams in the 20th century destroyed the population of the once plentiful salmon and the way of life the people who depended upon them. Many of Alexie's poems and stories deal with how the Native American community has been affected by this destruction. And there's a picture of Sherman Alexie. So, for the poem, I am told by many of you that I must forgive, and so I shall, after an Indian woman puts her shoulder to the Grand Coulee Dam and topples it. I am told by many of you that I must forgive, and so I shall, after the floodwaters burst each successive dam downriver from the Grand Coulee. I am told by many of you that I must forgive, and so I shall, after the floodwaters find their way to the mouth of the Columbia River as it enters the Pacific and causes all of it to rise. I am told by many of you that I must forgive, and so I shall, after the first drop of floodwater is swallowed by that salmon waiting in the Pacific. I am told by many of you that I must forgive, and so I shall, after that salmon swims upstream through the mouth of the Columbia and then past the flooded cities, broken dams, and abandoned reactors of Hanford. I am told by many of you that I must forgive, and so I shall. After that salmon swims through the mouth of the Spokane River as it meets the Columbia, then upstream until it arrives in the shallows of a secret bay on the reservation where I wait alone. I am told by many of you that I must forgive, and so I shall. After that salmon leaps into the night air above the water, throws a lightning bolt at the brush near my feet, and starts the fire which will lead all the lost Indians home. I am told by many of you that I must forgive, and so I shall. After we Indians have gathered around the fire with that salmon, who has 3 stories it must tell before sunrise. One story will teach us how to pray, another story will make us laugh for hours, the third story will give us reason to dance. I am told by many of you I must forgive, and so I shall, while I am dancing with my tribe during the powwow at the end of the world. So for that poem, you are going to highlight 2 things. So you're going to go back through the poem and highlight the examples of imagery, red. So remember, imagery is descriptions that appeal to the senses of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. So looking at the poem, Indian woman puts her shoulder to the Grand Coulee Dam and topples it. Red. So just reading through like this, puts her shoulder to the Grand Coulee Dam and topples it. So to me, I can picture that in my mind. So that would be like a sight imagery. Floodwaters burst each successive dam downriver from the Grand Coulee. Again, that's probably sight. So just as you read through, you're looking for details that you can see in your mind, hear in your ears or in your mind, feel, anything like that. So go through both slides and highlight those red. And then once you're done highlighting with red, you're going to go back through the poem and find an example of an allusion. Highlight that blue. So remember, allusions are references to a famous person, place, event, or work of literature. So you're looking for, remember when we went through the allusion notes on Tuesday, anything, really any proper nouns. So you're looking for famous things that people would know. Even if you don't know it, it's still an allusion. So just look for those capitalized proper nouns, and that's probably your best bet. So you need at least one somewhere in here. So references to famous things that people would know. Once you're done highlighting in blue, the last thing you're going to do is explain how your examples of imagery and illusion create an effect or contributes to the meaning of the poem's meaning. So what I would do is go back and copy my example of imagery. And if you do Control-Shift-V, it should paste it in there without that red. Add quotation marks around it. So in the poem, it says, the spacing got all off. So explain how your examples of imagery create an effect. This imagery creates an effect of I'm going to say power creates a powerful effect of emotion. So that would be my first part of my paragraph. So 3 sentences for imagery and then about 3 sentences for your illusion. So in the poem it says, and go paste your quote into here, this creates an effect of, and then because. And then you would do the same thing again. So in the poem it says, find your illusion. This illusion creates an effect of, and then because. So roughly 6 sentences is what you should be doing for this. When you have that paragraph written, you can turn this slideshow in on Schoology. So let me know if you have any questions with any of these directions. Otherwise, that is it for today. So, journal number 3, review quizzes for the test tomorrow, and poem and highlighting and write a paragraph. And that's it for today. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.